Hey everyone, welcome back to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Friday, May 20th. Nice little 15-game full slate here on a Friday. It wouldn't be Friday if it wasn't Friday with a full game slate, so it's just an interesting night. What we've had for pitching over the last few days, we're going to a slate where there's a couple really solid options, but outside of that, it gets to the bottom of the barrel. So we got a lot to talk about when it comes to that. We got a lot to talk about because it's 15 games. So, let's talk about it. Hoop, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Like you said, we got a full slate. Pitching options tonight, just not the greatest, but we'll go through, figure out, and try to nail down a couple solid options. I think there's one that kind of stands out, and I have a very strong feeling that you are going to agree.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. And I've already got the cheese is good. He sent me a text 29 hours until this guy starts. So, gets a matchup with Atlanta. So if you haven't checked out fantasydraft.com, they're the sponsor of the podcast. If you like the podcast and listening to it Monday through Friday, make sure you head on over to Fantasy Draft, give them a shout, give them a look. A lot of stuff going on. It's Friday, so they have their big $15,000 home run, $22 tournament, and there's only a 15 entry max. So you're not playing against guys that have 50 or 100 entries. So you're only playing against 15 at the max. So I love that tournament. I love their cash games. Just a lot of action over there. So if you haven't checked them out, make sure you guys head on over to fantasydraft.com, use promo code GRINDERS. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for a year for free, and you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. All that stuff is awesome, so make sure you guys check them out. Hoop, we're going to jump right in, man. Like we said, it's 15 games. It's going to take us all of an hour to get through 15 games, so we're just going to, tackle it right away, and it's Colorado at Pittsburgh. We got Gerrit Cole and Eddie Butler. What's your thoughts on these guys?
Obviously, Eddie Butler not in play. Not a guy I will likely ever roster, to be quite frank with you. Gerrit Cole, somewhat interesting, but honestly, he's just a guy I don't play that often. I don't know. He's coming off a really good start in Chicago. He went 8 innings, struck out seven batters, only gave up 3 hits. And I mean, for me, that's a good outing, and that's just basically the best you're ever going to get out of him. So I don't know. I mean, he's a large favorite here, opened up at -200. The total's sitting at 7.5. So he is obviously in play, but I mean, for me personally, just not a guy I roster often and the guy I get excited about. But I suppose this is a good spot.
Yeah, really, when you're looking at Cole and you're looking at, especially this season, the swinging strike rate is down and the hard contact is up. That's really alerting and alarming for me. And when you're paying, especially on FanDuel, you're paying over 10,000 for this guy. He's not a guy that I would pay over 10,000 for. The strikeouts, if they're there, but they're just not, under a strikeout per inning this season, just nothing that really excites me. And if we're looking at the Rockies offense, I hate to say it, but this offense is, warming up.
Yeah, exactly. And, they had a big night tonight in St. Louis. In St. Louis, they ended up getting to Michael Wacha. Game's still going on. They got 6 runs through 5 innings. So, their offense is warming up even away from Colorado. So I don't know. I just, I guess you could play him. He's a big favorite. He's at home, pitcher-friendly ballpark. I'm somewhat biased. Like I said, he's a guy I just typically don't play. So I suppose he's in a good spot, big favorite, relatively low total. I like a little bit biased.
Yeah, everything that you're saying makes sense. And a lot of that might have to just mention how bad Eddie Butler is. We're looking at Eddie Butler, 437 WOBA, 33.5% hard contact to lefties, and it doesn't get much better against righties, 346. The hard contact goes way down against righties, which, should help him here at PNC against Pittsburgh. But, man, this Pittsburgh offense is just too good. As we've seen, we took a couple shots against them here lately, and it just hasn't worked out. And Butler's definitely a guy you want to pick on. So let's talk some bats here. Polanco continues to stay really hot at the plate.
Yeah.
3,900 on FanDuel. He continues to pay off that price tag. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a believer in hot streaks, this is basically the first guy you should put in your lineup. at least 3 hits in now. I believe he has 3 again tonight, so it's 3 out of 4 games. It's a good matchup here. He has power, he has speed, just a deadly combination for DFS. So, like I said, if you believe in hot streaks, this guy should probably be the first guy that you put in your lineup. 3.9K on FanDuel, like you said, it's about as high as we've seen for him, but the matchup's good. The recent performance is good, so a lot in his corner here in this matchup tonight.
Yeah, and his price tag's up across the industry, and it's just he's hitting the ball really well, gets a great matchup. So it'd be a guy that you definitely want to look at. Is there anybody else that you want to mention here for the Pirates?
I mean, all the guys are really in play. I mean, one guy that does stand out is Jung Ho Kang. Batted in the 4 spot tonight. If he continues to bat in the 4 spot, that's a really plus position for him. Priced moderately around the industry, and he's been hitting the ball since coming off the DL. A bunch of home runs already in the last couple of weeks, so definitely a guy to consider. I like him a lot better if he's hitting 4th. Obviously, McCutcheon's in play. Cervelli had a day off tonight, so should be back in the lineup tomorrow night. But a lot to like here overall for the Pirates. Basically, their whole lineup in play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you had to say there. And my first fantasy draft cash game play that you're going to want to start your lineup with here at Fantasy Draft is John Jaso. You don't have to play him at first base on Fantasy Draft, and you get a leadoff hitter at 6,800 in a very, very plus matchup here against Eddie Butler. He's the first guy that I would recommend putting in your cash lineup. I hate it on FanDuel because you got to play him at first base, but at Fantasy Draft, man, you get him where you get 3 infield spots and 2 utilities. It's definitely a guy you want to look at over there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's on FanDuel, DraftKings. He really needs to be priced significantly lower than the top first basemen, and he is on DraftKings. I think he is in play there on FanDuel, priced. Oh, actually, 2.9K. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, I'd have no problem going there actually on FanDuel. But like you said, you are compromising a little bit of home run upside when you lock him into your first base position. So if you're paying up at pitcher on the slate, I think playing him is reasonable.
Now, just because we said that Cole might not be a guy we want to target on the hill, if I'm going to target bats against him, it's going to be a stack. It's going to be Arenado, Blackman, Cargo, Story. It's going to be part of a stack. I'm not going to try to single these guys out. If they're going to put up runs, I feel like that's the way they're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to, individually try to pick apart who's going to be the guy. It's going to be an all or nothing type situation, and will be really low owned. Garrett Cole is, good name recognition, and he is a solid pitcher. Don't get me wrong. So the stack would be really low owned. So yeah, I mean, take what you want out of that.
Atlanta at Philadelphia, Aaron Nola and Matt Whistler. I don't want anything to do with Whistler here, but I want everything to do with Aaron Nola. We kind of hinted at it. Aaron Nola in a matchup here against Atlanta, a team that, when you're looking at the Braves, they don't have power. They rank really low in ISO. They rank really low in WRC plus and hard contact rate. This is definitely a matchup. Aaron Nola could just go out, throw 7-8 innings, and just dominate here.
Yeah, I think I'll end up being a pretty popular play tonight, and rightfully so. Very reasonable price tag around the industry. He pitches for the Phillies, so obviously the price tag will remain low, most likely for most of the season here, but in a very plus spot. I mean, the Braves lineup is just decimated. There is just very limited upside in their bats right now. Nola's a good strikeout guy, a lot to like, and this is just about as good of a matchup as he's going to have all season long at home against the Braves. A lot to like. And like I said, I think he will be a popular play, and that's definitely the right call.
Yeah, even if he's popular, who really cares at 9,000 on FanDuel? It's just one of these things. Especially when you're looking at the slate now. The one site that I might have an issue with it is he's 21,000 over on Fantasy Draft. That's ace pricing, and I feel like that might lower his ownership, and that's a place I'm going to jump on him as well. I just think the matchup's too good. Even if the Braves get to him here, what's the worst we're going to see? 2, maybe 3 earned runs. We're not going to see home runs. We're not going to see them really beat him up. So I feel like We mentioned Jonathan Gray on the podcast yesterday. That was a matchup at St. Louis. It did not work out for us. Jonathan Gray, I will still stand behind him. He's a great pitcher. He's still young. He's, second year into the league. His work. Nola's the same way, but this matchup is much better than what we've seen at St. Louis. So Nola's just a guy that I feel like we can go right back to one of these young guys.
Yeah, the only issue I had with Jon Gray tonight was in St. Louis. Obviously, it's not a great hitting environment, but the Cardinals are just a really tough team in St. Louis. They get to good pitchers there. So that was the reason I was kind of off Jon Gray, but I know a lot of people were on him, and I think there's going to be a ton of matchups this season where we're all over Jon Gray. He had a phenomenal outing in San Diego, but I guess most pitchers have a phenomenal outing in San Diego. Great environment. Their lineup sucks, but with Nola, this is about as good as it gets at home against the Braves. Just fire away, absolutely.
When you look at Matt Witzler, you look at a guy that he's been putting up pretty solid fantasy numbers, but then you look at the stats a little bit more, giving up a lot of hits, not giving up a lot of runs. So that's helping him as far as fantasy points go. When you're looking at the matchup, though, he really struggles with left-handed bats. So when you're looking at Philly, the guys that we like are the Herreras, Ryan Howard's the upside guy. The top of the order guys, a lot of them are left-handed.
Yeah, Whistler, super interesting case here. I mean, you look at what he's done recently. So he's gone at least 7 1/3 in his last 3 starts. And if you go back for 5 starts, he's gone at least 6 2/3 in 4 out of 5 starts. The Braves lineup, or the Phillies lineup, is not all that impressive. So I don't know. Whistler, I think I have some interest as an SP2. So if you're going to play him, you pair him up with one of the top pitchers and make sure you're loading up on bats. I think probably more so in tournaments. You hope he does what he's done in the last 3 starts, goes 7 innings, strikes out 5 or 6 guys, and really limits the damage. So if he's really cheap on a site you're playing on, I don't mind playing him as an SP2.
Yeah, they faced off here May 10th, Whistler and Philadelphia Phillies, and he gave up 8 hits in that start. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Let me pull it up real quick. But yeah, he gave up 8 hits in that start. He went 8 innings in that game. 3 of those hits and the home run was to Franco. Like, Franco had a really good game there. And that's kind of what we expect out of the Phillies. Like, if we're expecting a big game, it's usually Franco. So he's the one guy that I would target here for Philadelphia. I'm not going to pick on Aaron Nola with any of these Braves, though.
No, thank you. I mean, like, it's the only bat that we're really going to play for DFS purposes is Freddie Freeman. But this matchup's just brutal, and I'm off him.
Moving on to the next game, Tampa at Detroit. Anibal Sanchez and Matt Enarisi. This kid, you want to talk about a guy that's really impressed since being called up. He's coming off of a complete game 2-hitter against Oakland. It's not saying too much because it's against Oakland, but it's saying enough that we really want to, kind of look at him here. But is this the matchup that we want to target him here against Detroit?
Tough spot, obviously, in Detroit. Their bats kind of starting to warm up a little bit. Had a good series there against Minnesota. They'll be looking to build on that, obviously. I don't know. I don't think I could really pull the trigger on him facing this Tigers lineup. They have a lot of professional hitters in their lineup, a lot of guys that can hit home runs. So, I mean, I'm off him, but yeah, he's been impressive coming off a really solid start. Like you said, the 9-inning complete game, 5 strikeout performance against the A's, 7 innings before that. He's been impressive, but, not in this matchup. I really can't do it.
Yeah, when you look at those 2 games, you're like, all right, this guy might have some ownership here. And then you look at, the advanced stats, and that's where his .56 ERA and his xFIP at 4.52, like, that's screaming massive regression. Like, how often do we usually see an ERA and an xFIP have a 4-point difference? So
that's crazy. I mean, that's nuts.
It's really alarming to me. Like, it really scares me. And for those type of reasons, I feel like Detroit's a good stack here.
Yeah, I like the Tiger bats. Definitely stack them up in tournaments because typically when we see guys that are outperforming their real numbers, it hits hard. And this is a matchup where regression could hit really hard. The Tigers have a lineup that can definitely do damage. They'll make pitchers pay for their mistakes. So I like the Tiger stack a ton. You get a ton of upside. And, not crazy. The prices aren't crazy. Cabrera is, moderately priced across the industry. JD Martinez, really hot right now. Upton. I have no problem loading up on the Tigers here.
Telling you, Justin Upton breakout game is coming. He is squaring the ball up and he's hitting it hard. Like it's still not showing too much. He has a couple multi-hit games over the last few games, but it's coming. I'm telling you guys. He's only 3K. He's a guy that you want to look at here in tournaments. It's coming. A multi-home run game is going to happen within, if I had to guess, the next 5 to 6 days.
Absolutely. I'm with you, man. I mean, the guy has way too much upside. He's been terrible since coming to Detroit. But like I said, they played well in that last series. They hit on Sunday. They had a nice comeback win, and then it parlayed into a sweep of the Twins. They're going to want this game, and their offense is starting to click, and they have the guys that can do some damage. So like them, I like Upton, like you said.
Anibal Sanchez, on the other hand, not a guy that we want to target here. Even at his really fair price tag of 6,800, but his biggest issue is home runs to righties, struggles with righties massively, and he's going to face probably 6 or 7 right-handed bats here.
Yeah, and then I like the lefties too. On top of that, I like the righties. I like the lefties. The lefties, Dickerson and Miller, Brad Miller at shortstop. I like those guys a ton. The right-handed bats, Longoria, if Pierce is in there. There's a lot to like. I like stacking these guys up because, like you said, when Sanchez is struggling, the ball's leaving the yard. And, there's nothing we like more in DFS than guys that hit home runs. So it's a beautiful combination.
I definitely agree. I like the game stack here. It's something that I'm going to definitely do in a tournament.
Really low owned as a full game stack, especially the Rays. The Rays will be low on Tigers bats. Kind of popular, but I could see this being a high scoring affair, definitely.
Moving on over Cleveland at Boston, we got to talk about your Tigers. Now we get to talk about my Red Sox. The one problem the Red Sox have today is they have to face Corey Kluber. Can Kluber slow down a really hot offense?
Well, I'll tell you one group of people that does not believe so. That is Vegas, because the total in this game, what was it, 9.5?
I saw 9 as well.
Yeah, it's 9. And Kluber, a very, very small favorite at -110. So Vegas kind of siding with the Boston Red Sox offense. Yes, Kluber is a favorite. He's always going to be a favorite against Clay Buchholz. No doubt about that. But the 9 total here should tell you something. So I like Boston as a stack. They have guys that are they're on fire and, appear to be one of the better offenses in all of baseball. They have guys that can do a ton of damage. I don't have a problem stacking these guys up in tournaments.
Is this finally a spot that we might see the Red Sox stack a little under-owned because of the matchup here with Kluber?
Yeah, going to be the lowest owned that we've seen in a while, yes.
Yeah, stack them up in a tournament. Clay Buchholz, not much better, and Cleveland has a very hot offense right now. Rajai Davis, still cheap enough where you might want to look at him in cash games. His prices have come up, a little bit, and rightfully so. 2,900, he was like a free play for a couple nights because he was just mashing the ball. Where he didn't come up, though, is over on Fantasy Draft, 6,800. Carlos Santana, 7,500, coming off a multi-home run game. I like the Indians here again.
Yeah, absolutely. Those price tags, you should definitely lock those guys into your cash game lineups on Fantasy Draft, no doubt about that. But yeah, you got to like them here. It's a nice park shift in their favor heading to Boston. Like I said, the total in this game is at 9, so their team totals slightly above 4.5, which is a big number. And they have guys that are hot right now. Obviously, Kipnis, Santana had 2 home runs tonight, potentially more. The game's still going on. Davis is hot. Lindor, I like a lot. If Jose Ramirez continues to bat 5th, I think he's in play as well. So just a lot to like, cash game playable and certainly tournament stack playable as well.
Moving on over Milwaukee at New York, taking on the Mets, Steven Matz and Willie Peralta. The first thing that we need to talk about here with Steven Matz is they've already come out and said that they're going to be very careful with his pitch count because of his sore forearm in this game. At 9,800 on FanDuel, it's really easy for me just to say, hey, fade him here. We don't know what's going to happen with his pitch count. He might go out and throw 70. He might go out and throw 100. $9,800. Save the $800 and play Nola.
Yeah, for me, it's a full pass. I mean, anytime you hear we're going to monitor him, we're going to be really conservative, any kind of talk like that with a starting pitcher, you typically don't want to get exposure to that guy. So, I'm off him. I don't see the upside in really playing him in any sort of format. And that being said, not much to like for the Brewers either. I mean, it's a situation I'm not going to take the pitcher. I'm not really going to get exposure to the opposing offense either.
Now we definitely need to talk about the Mets. Really cold offense right now. Willie Peralta, 380 WOBA to lefties, 389 WOBA to righties. This guy has just been awful for a season and a half now. Is this the spot where the Mets finally get everything straightened out and get it going here?
There's a very good chance that does indeed happen at home here facing Willie Peralta. Not the best hitting environment, but that is offset by how terrible Willie Peralta is. So a lot of bats here to like, specifically the lefties, Conforto, Duda, Granderson, Walker. Don't forget about David Wright and Cespedes as well, all in play in this matchup. A really good spot to load up in tournaments and a good spot to get some cash game exposure as well.
Yeah, when you're looking at, when the first thing you look at is like, man, Neil Walker, 2,700, great matchup. Definitely a guy you're going to want to look at for cash games. Conforto, 3,400. His price tag has finally come down. Price really hasn't come down on a site like Fantasy Draft, where I feel like they really adjust to matchups.
Yeah.
So target them on FanDuel, target them on DraftKings. Good matchup here. Washington at Miami. Justin Aquilino against Tanner Roark. Roark has been really interesting this season, and I just don't see it continuing. I just see regression coming for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had that one massive 15 strikeout game, then followed up with a 6 and then a 7. So he's striking out way more batters than we've seen historically. He had the same matchup, I believe it was last week against Miami, and really, really disappointed. Ended up giving up 8 hits, only lasted 5 innings. So I don't know. Tanner Roark, another guy I don't think is really DFS playable. I mean, a guy I rarely roster. So off him here on the road. I mean, I know it's a good pitching environment, but I don't know. I'm with you. I definitely see regression in his near future.
And when you're looking at Roark, he doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. He has a 23.9% career hard contact rate. It's just not one of these things where, you really want to target him with a lot of power bats because he doesn't give up a lot of home runs. But the thing is, the home run per 9 is way down. The strikeout per 9 is way up, 2 points higher than his career. Like, just regression is going to happen. The Marlins got to him, a week or so ago. They're going to get to him again here. Nicolino, no strikeout upside, 4 strikeouts in 24 innings this season. Never a guy that you want to target in fantasy. Even if he gets you a win, like his best case scenario is maybe, 35, 40 points. Best case, best game of his career.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to roster him here. Nationals have guys that can definitely do damage. I think Bryce Harper, an elite tournament option, lefty-lefty matchup that will keep a lot of people off of him. Zimmerman, even Murphy, I'd taken that lefty-lefty matchup. Rendon, just a lot to like here. Nicolino, obviously not in play. Nationals bats, I think solid. A good tournament stack too. I think people will kind of be off them overall.
Yeah, Anthony Rendon, another name I just want to throw out there. He's going to continue. He's going to get it going eventually, and we're starting to see him start to hit the ball a little bit better. Jason Worth, 3,100. If he continues to hit in the 2 spot, I think he's a guy you can look at in all formats here.
Yeah, absolutely. If he's batting second, a guy that's always hit left-handed pitching really, really well, definitely want to consider him. The price is low basically all around the industry.
Well, it's not a podcast if I don't mention Dietrich. A little cold right now, but I still feel like a leadoff hitter at 6,400 on Fantasy Draft. He's going to make my list here for cash game playable. I mentioned how much I don't like Roark. I love Dietrich here, batting leadoff, 6,400. Lock him in on your cash lineups over on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, that's a really cheap price tag. Excellent cash game play there.
Any other Marlins? We can talk Stanton. Stanton always is a guy that has upside, but man, 3,700. His swing is off right now. A lot of strikeouts lately. Like, you have to think that, all right, I'm going to take some extra BP and I'm going to get it going.
Yeah.
And 3,700 just too cheap for me.
Yeah, on FanDuel, that's tough to pass up. 3,700, the upside, definitely there. He's cold. I mean, he's really, really cold right now, and that's why the price is sitting at 3,700. FanDuel doesn't really adjust based on matchups. So he's had only 2 hits in his last 6 games. If you want to extend that out, he has 4 hits in his last 10 games,
Yeah.
which includes a ton of strikeouts. Just looks awful at the plate, but he's 3.7K, and like you said, you have to think he's going to get it going at some point. He's going to put in the extra work. Things will come back for him. There's no doubt about it. But 3,700, that's tough to pass up.
Yeah, not a guy you want in cash games, but tournament upside is definitely there. Seattle at Cincinnati. Great ballpark here, like we targeted, pretty much for the last couple of days, where, Cincinnati is just a great place to target hitters. And Ikukuma and Straley here, just not two guys you really want to, start, and two guys you can really pick on.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the Mariners bats. Love the Mariners bats here, getting this nice park shift in their favor, heading to Cincinnati, and they're hot right now too. On top of it, Cano, Seth Smith, Nelson Cruz, Kyle Seager are the main components of that lineup. Aoki leading off. A lot to like here. A very positive park shift in their favor, like I said. And Dan Straley sucks. So really good situation to get exposure to here.
Yeah, Mariners, one of my favorite stacks on the board, 1 through 6. And do yourself a favor and make sure that you do not leave out, Nelson Cruz if you stack the Mariners, because that's just not smart. Righty matchup, who cares? A lot of the back end bullpen guys for Cincinnati are lefties, so if he gets an 8th inning matchup with a lefty out of the bullpen and you don't have him in your stack and he hits a massive bomb, it's just one of those things. Do not leave out Nelson Cruz in your stack. Cincinnati side, Jay Bruce, streaky hitter. Still, we're recording the podcast the night before. We don't know necessarily what he did in that game, but he's a streaky guy. If he continues to hit, he's a guy you want to continue to play.
Yeah, big time streaky hitter. It's a fine matchup here. Iwakuma. I have no problem picking on him a little bit. Has not been very impressive this season. Low strikeout guy, so no problem going there. Joey Votto. That's what I was trying to say. Joey Votto also in play. He had a home run tonight. Billy Hamilton, if he's at the top of the order. A lot to like in this game overall.
Yeah, I agree. Texas at Houston. It's a Texas matchup here with Texas and Houston. Lance McCullers and Colby Lewis. Colby Lewis has been really good or really bad. There's just no in between. He's been really good or really bad all season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pick on him here. I don't know. It's Colby Lewis. I can't believe that this guy's any good, to be honest with you.
Well, I agree, man. Like, when you're looking at his stats and everything, you're like, man, it's a guy that I want to pick on every time he starts.
Yeah, I don't know. Dating back to last season, I don't even know if he was pitching 2 seasons ago, but it seems like anytime I see the name Colby Lewis, I want bats against him, and I'm sticking with it. I don't care what the guy's done this season. So Houston, they have the bats that can do the damage too. It's the usual suspects. Rasmus, probably my favorite option here. He'll bat cleanup. Springer, Correa, Altuve, Gaddis, if he's in there, he's pretty cheap in a lot of spots. So I like the Astros bats. I'm not buying Colby Lewis.
Yeah, when you're looking at Colby Lewis, he's a guy dating back to last year, almost a 35% hard contact rate with a 48% fly ball rate. Like, that just doesn't fly in Houston. No. Massive center field, but left field, really short porch. And when you're looking at the lineup, there's just so many right-handed bats that can just take Lewis deep here. Yeah. Evan Gaddis is an excellent tournament play. If he's in the lineup, he's been batting in the 5 spot. Yeah. Definitely a guy you want to look at in tournaments because he's just so cheap. And then on like a site like FanDuel, you get a catcher with a lot of upside.
Yeah, and cash game playable where he's catcher eligible. There's no doubt about that. It fills you a position that has, a lot of times limited upside. He provides a lot of upside. So I'd be fine playing him in cash games there. So, overall, just not going to shy away from picking on Colby Lewis.
Yeah, and then the last name I want to mention here, Colin Moran, he got called up because of Gomez getting hurt. Wasn't in the lineup because of the lefty-lefty matchup on Thursday. If he's in the lineup, you get a $2,200 third baseman on FanDuel. You get a almost minimum salary player over on Fantasy Draft. If he's in the lineup, he's definitely somebody that you're going to want to look at here in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. A promising prospect there, and basically the minimum around the industry, and has some decent upside in a plus matchup as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, agree. So looking at the other side of things here, I find Lance McCullers is a really interesting tournament play. I want to get your thoughts on that.
That's why you're the tournament guy, because that is not somebody I would have considered. I guess I can see it at home. Texas Rangers have the propensity to go a little bit cold. Not a guy, that I'll be on, but you're the tournament expert. That's why, you bring up these plays that are us cash game guys are like, what? Huh? Who?
Yeah, he has I don't know. They say it's like a knuckle curveball. And it's a really good strikeout pitch. And when you have a team like Texas where, outside of Odor, Fielder's really cold. Odor, yeah. Mazzara, and Desmond, if you can get around those three guys, his swinging strike rate with that curveball, 12.6%. And then he has a changeup, like a circle change, I think and it's over like 20%. So that was in 2015. Mm-hmm. Small sample size,
yeah.
But the kid has promising stuff. He's 22 years old. Like, he's another one of these guys that the one spot I don't know if I would take a shot on him is on FanDuel. 8K, really high price tag over there. I'm going to take him on smaller sites that really haven't adjusted to, the type of talent that he has. And a site like Fantasy Draft, 15.9, great SP2 in a tournament with upside here.
Yeah, I can see it. I could definitely see the case. No doubt about it. I think the main thing is the Rangers offense has shown it can go ice cold and just get completely shut down. So I think that's the main reason why he'd be in consideration.
Yeah, and we got to mention the bats. Odor, Desmond, Mazzara. Those are the guys you want to target here. And yeah. Mazzara is 5,700 on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, that's a semi-free square. And I'll throw Prince Fielder in there. Maybe I'm a sucker, but I keep randomly playing him. He's been really, really bad. I hope he busts out of it at some point. I'll continue to plug him in there. I'm just banking on the fact that he will turn around at some point. Maybe it comes to this matchup. Who knows?
Toronto at Minnesota, Aaron Sanchez, Tyler Duffy. Aaron Sanchez, do you believe in this kid?
I actually do.
Okay.
I actually do. I've played him a few times, and the results have been rather positive. So maybe I am a little bit biased, but I think the matchup is pretty plus here. Getting away from Rogers Center, heading to Minnesota, more neutral playing field here, and gets the matchup here with the Twins, a team that has been relatively cold all season long, striking out a lot against right-handed pitching. I actually like him. I think maybe a little more in tournaments, but I wouldn't be opposed to playing him as an SP2.
Yeah, he's a guy that I don't know if I'm fully sold on yet. Really comes down to his walk rate. But like you just mentioned, love the matchup here for him. When you look at Aaron Sanchez's numbers, where he's really good is against right-handed bats. And when you're looking at, Minnesota as a team, we look at Sano, Nunez, Park, Plouffe, all right-handed bats. Like, all the power on this team. Yeah, and I'm going to say that because Maurer doesn't have power. Maurer is just one of these guys that he'll continue to hit 300, not going to really kill you because he's not really going to go deep maybe more than 5 times a year. So when you're looking at Minnesota as a whole, they're just full of right-handed bats, and Aaron Sanchez is a guy that could really neutralize those right-handed bats. And for those reasons, I think he's definitely in play here.
Yeah, if he can avoid the right-handed power bats, which he's done a pretty good job of that this season, he should have a good outing here because, like you said, there's not many lefties in this lineup that can punish him with power.
Yeah, the problem here for Aaron Sanchez is he has an offense that's ice cold behind him. Like, you're hoping that a matchup here with Tyler Duffy, can get things right for this offense. And then you look at Duffy's numbers; they're not bad. Decent against righties, struggles a little bit against lefties. Man, is this a matchup that we can, say, hey, play Blue Jays again?
I think so. I don't know. They've been ice cold, and they're not doing much again tonight. But the prices are down for the most part, especially on FanDuel. You look at Josh Donaldson. He's 3.7K. That's really, really cheap. Haven't seen him that low in a while. Justin Smoke is only 3K. So there's a lot to like in this Blue Jays lineup, but they've been cold. You have to assume they're going to bust out of this little mini slump at some point. I think it's okay to continue to fire away at them.
Yeah, I'm stacking them on the tournament team, and that's about it. I wouldn't touch these guys in cash. Outside of, maybe Saunders or Smoke, if they get good lineup spots, they've been moving around this lineup a lot. Like, the coach is doing everything he can to try to jumpstart this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't been working lately, so maybe whatever lineup they roll out tonight, it'll work. Who knows?
Kansas City at Chicago taking on the White Sox. Jose Quintana against Dylan Gee. Gee, not a guy that I really want to target too much. He's just not a great pitcher when you're looking at his stats. There's a reason that this guy was in the bullpen. He really struggles with left-handed bats.
Yeah, and the White Sox have some guys that I'm interested in. I think Adam Eaton at the top of the order, interesting. On FanDuel, though, 4.1K, I'm not sure I can pull the trigger there. I think Abreu in play. I think Todd Frazier's in play. I mean, the problem I have with these guys, they're a little bit too expensive for me. So I like stacking these guys up in tournaments. I think the overall unit together will be a low-owned combination. So it's kind of tough to play them in cash games because they're priced up so highly.
Yeah, priced up across the industry. Looked at that before we got on here. Just priced up across the industry. I will say one thing. Jose Quintana is a guy that I've been really impressed with this season. He's pitching really well in 8 starts. His whip is under 1.0. Strikeout rate is solid. The swinging strike rate is right around, average for him. And the K per 9, a little over 8. So the thing that I love the most about Quintana, the home run per 9 is 0.17.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's really impressive. The only bat that kind of stands out to me on the Royals side is Lorenzo Cain. But yeah, I don't know, that home run to 9 number, that's insane low. I mean, he's giving up no power, so it somewhat limits the upside, but Cain's really cheap in a lot of spots. So I think Cain would be the one guy I might have some interest in.
Cain would be the one guy. Quintana, not on FanDuel, 9,400. Don't know if I could pay that. It comes down to, and he might be a good pivot off of Nova or Nola. It really comes down to me. I'm comparing everybody to Nola and Sanchez. Those are my 2 guys that I like under 10K tonight. And it's tough for me to pay that extra money for Quintana, but if you feel like you want to play him, I have no issue with it. Like, he has been really solid this season.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's a pretty sizable favorite here, minus what was that number? Like 160. That's a pretty solid number at home here. He's pitched really, really well, so I can see it. I'd probably be more prone to playing him on a site like FanDuel where the win is more valuable. But if he's cheap somewhere, which I haven't really found a spot where he is, I guess you could play him there as well as an SP2.
Carlos Martinez and Patrick Corbin, Arizona at St. Louis. We learned our lesson, on Thursday night. We don't want to take pitchers at St. Louis against the Cardinals, right?
Yes, that is correct.
I learned the hard way. Luckily, you were smart enough to kind of stay away from it. I had a lot of Jonathan Gray.
Yeah.
Did not work out for me. That's what being a tournament player is all about. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Patrick Corbin has a tough matchup here. Looking at Corbin's, starts this season, every start he's given up at least 5 hits. Most of those games, 6 or 7 hits. So Corbin's a guy that we want to pick on here. And when we're looking on FanDuel, Matt Holliday, 2,700, 4-spot. Like, he's a plug and play here for cash games, right?
Going to be very, very popular. There's no doubt about that. But a guy I love, just as much as Stephen Piscotty. This guy is a good player. There is no doubt about that. Having a phenomenal season, locked into the 2 or 3 hole. He'll be at the top of the order. Just a ton of hard contact. It seemed like it's at least an RBI double or a home run every night. He's just playing so well right now. Just love this guy. And he's fairly priced too on FanDuel at only 3.4K. So a lot to like here for the Cardinals. Matt Holliday's too cheap. Scotty, I'd like a ton.
So let's get your thoughts here on Carlos Martinez. We like a lot of the bats here for the Cardinals. Martinez probably in a good spot to pick up a win, but just doesn't look right for me. So I want to get your thoughts.
Looked really good at the beginning of last season. Kind of bust on the scene on a big-time heater, but Finished last season kind of down. Hasn't been super impressive this season. Just a guy, I don't know, I typically don't play. He's always priced up in uncomfortable price range for me. And even in plus matchups, it seems like he just doesn't pitch that well. So I'm kind of off this guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't love him either. I still need to dig a little bit more and see how Arizona does against ground ball pitchers and stuff like that. But when you're looking at Martinez, xFIP, a point higher than his ERA this season. The swinging strike rate is way down. The K per nine is way down. And the hard contact rate is about 5% higher than his career. All that screams is don't play this guy for me. And usually I would like a guy that's the same price as a guy that's really chalky like Nola, but I just can't do it here with Carlos Martinez. I do like the spot for him to pick up a win, but man, I just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just I don't know, just a guy I'm uncomfortable with at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and if I'm going to target bats against him, Goldschmidt obviously always in play. Gene Segura continues to get the job done at the leadoff spot for Arizona. And Hoop, it wouldn't be a podcast if Jake Lamb wasn't brought up.
Yeah, the dude's been super impressive. I think will be really low owned here, obviously. But Carlos Martinez, I don't know. I'm not a real strong believer in him. Lamb will be locked into that 4-hole. You can get him at a low ownership level, and he has a ton of upside. So I love him as a tournament option.
Diaz, if he bats in the 2 spot for the Cardinals again, definitely a guy you want to look at in your cash games. Any other things you want to mention here before we move on?
I don't think we're good.
New York at Oakland. Sonny Gray and CC Sabathia. Oh, yes. That's exactly what I thought when I saw this game. Nobody's going to play these guys. It's at O.co. We're not going to see a 9.5 total, and that just instantly makes me, happy. I can't lie to you.
Yeah, a lot to like here. I mean, obviously, at least for me, neither pitcher is in play. I'm assuming neither is in play for you. Either Sonny Gray been really bad. He's been really bad. A lot of smart people kind of predicted that, and they've been right. So I mean, I'm not playing either guy. For the Oakland A-bats, it's pretty simple. They have guys in their lineup that destroy left-handed pitching. It's Danny Valencia, Chris Davis are the 2 guys that stand out to me on heaters right now. And the prices have come up a little bit, which hopefully will lower the ownership percentage a little bit. I don't know if that'll be the case or not, but just in a phenomenal spot here. And I'm assuming you like both those guys as well.
Yeah, that leads me to my final fantasy draft play here. Danny Valencia, 7,200. This guy mashes left-handed pitching, and CC Sabathia has been a bad lefty for over a year now. Danny Valencia, just an excellent cash game play. Chris Davis, 7,600 on fantasy draft. Another guy you can look at. And then one of my favorite guys is Marcus Semien against a guy that has a good ground ball rate, because Marcus Semien has kind of an uppercut swing. And JM talks about this all the time. Marcus Semien, an excellent tournament play here, because you don't really want to play him in cash. He bats in the 8 or 9 spot. We'll have better options. But I love him here for tournaments.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Anytime a guy's hitting low in the order, that typically lowers their ownership percentage as well, which makes them a really good tournament option. Really similar to like Brandon Crawford situation, a guy that people typically don't play in cash games because he hits 7th for the most part. And the price is up there a little bit, so people don't really play him. Semien, same type situation, shortstop eligible, low batting order spot, always low owned, has some upside, so I like that call.
I'm definitely going to have a Yankee stack here on this slate. We don't know, we're recording the podcast and the Yankee game hasn't even started yet for Thursday night, but their ownership was way down on Thursday night, and their price tags across the industry, it's just too cheap not to have a stack here for the Yankees on a guy like Gray, who his home run per 9 is way up and his hard contact rate is about 10% higher than what it is in his career.
Yeah, like I said, he's not been very good lately. 7 earned runs, 7 earned runs, 3 earned runs. Actually gave up 6 runs last time out, but only 3 were earned. So he's not been very sharp. The Yankees are a team, I think, that could cause some trouble for him. Obviously, they have guys that really know how to work the count and make pitchers work. And for me, if I'm going to consider Sonny Gray, it's got to be against a team with a lot of free swingers, and that's not the case with the Yankees. To Teixeira's been really bad. That's not who I meant to mention. Ellsbury, Gardner, McCann are the bats that kind of stand out to me. Even Beltran getting a good lineup spot. Another sneaky shortstop that I like a little bit here would be Didi Gregoria. Typically bats second or eighth, but has some pop. So a lot to like here for the Yankees bats, no doubt about that.
The one thing I do want to mention with Didi, kind of see what he did on Thursday night. I was watching the game on Wednesday night, and I forget exactly who it was, but somebody hit a rocket right down, like in between first and second, and it drilled Didi square in the side of the foot. Like, pay attention to that kind of stuff. See how he does on Thursday night, because if he goes out with 0 for 4 and has 3 strikeouts, that foot might be bothering him.
Might be a sign that the foot is not doing so well.
Baltimore at LA taking on the Angels. Hector Santiago, Mike Wright. After a really strong start to the season, Hector Santiago has been down. He finally had a good game last time out against Seattle. Is this a matchup that you want to target him here?
I have some interest in the bats going against him, if that's what you mean by target.
All right, that's good. I like when we're not on the same page. I love taking left-handed pitchers against Baltimore. The only right-handed bat in this order that scares me is Mark Trumbo. Machado, much better against righties. Chris Davis, he can hit lefties. Adam Jones, I feel like we're going to see some
Jones
regression.
is back, baby.
No.
Adam Jones is back.
Yeah, all right. Well, Adam Jones might be back, but he doesn't have a hit in the last 3 games.
He was back for 3 or 4 games, and that was it.
He was back when his price tag got down to 26. Now he has to, he has to stink for 2 weeks, so it gets back down. But dude, I have some interest in Hector Santiago here. Orioles 24th highest team WOBA, 6th worst. So this is a good matchup here, for Santiago. But is this a spot that he could go out and pick up a win? I definitely think so. Is he a cash game play? Heck no.
No. Just to cycle back here a little bit. So Adam Jones, he was hot, like we said, for it was a 6-game stretch, and it was against the Twins and the Tigers. 2 really bad pitching staffs with really bad bullpens. But that's just wanted to point that out. Yeah, I mean, Santiago is definitely not a cash game play. This is another one of those situations where you're on a sneaky pitcher in tournaments, and the cash game donkey sitting here like, what? Where's this coming from? Obviously, a guy that I haven't really considered. Definitely not cash game playable, but you're the tournament guy. So if you think he deserves some consideration, we'll have to go with it.
Well, the thing here, especially when we're looking at this slate and we're looking at tournaments, we can't play Nola in 100% of our tournaments. And just in case something happens against the Braves where maybe he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts or something. Even if he still gets the win, he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts and he puts up 35 or 40. And you might have a guy like Sanchez, who we mentioned, Santiago, and then we're going to talk about one more guy here in the late game. We have to mention some of these other guys that have upside, because really on a slate where Jake Arrieta is the highest priced guy, but he's in a matchup against San Francisco, which we'll talk about here in a minute. You got to look elsewhere, for your tournaments, cash games. We'll talk about that. It's just probably going to be Nola for me. It's hard to say that, but Arrieta in a matchup. But we'll talk about any bats that you want to target here against Mike Wright for the Angels.
The Angels lineup, it's just not very impressive, and there's not many guys that we're going to target this season unless we're full out punting a position. Obviously, the one name that stands out is Mike Trout, and I think he just makes for a phenomenal one-off in tournaments basically each night, because the lineup overall is just so weak, and stacking these guys up just doesn't offer a ton of upside. So, I mean, for me, it's Trout in tournaments, and I guess maybe Pujols. I don't know. That might be stupid.
No, I love Pujols. Like I said, we don't know how the results are going to base, but I have him in about 40% of my tournament lineups on Thursday night. Love the matchup for him here. He's a guy that when he starts hitting, you got to pay attention to it. And he has multi-hits in 4 of the last 7 games. So something to pay attention to. I'm a little against you here. I don't mind the Calhoun, Trout, Pujols, and I wouldn't go anything farther than that, like a 3-man tournament lineup.
Yeah, I could see Calhoun. I mean, he has some upside, but overall, I mean, for me, it's just basically Trout.
It's more of just playing ownerships. These late games have low ownership all the time. I might roll out a Santiago, Trout, Pujols, Calhoun kind of stack. So now you wanted to mention some Baltimore bats. Let you run with it.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy you mentioned, I think Trumbo, I really like him quite a bit. I still can get behind Adam Jones. Machado as well. I mean, obviously, like you said, he's hit right-handed pitching better, but I don't know. Santiago is a guy that I'd have no problem picking on here. Baltimore is on the road. It is a negative park shift. I think that will drive ownership level down a little bit. You look at Machado, he's cheaper on FanDuel than we've kind of seen this season at 3.7K. I don't know. I kind of have some interest in these Orioles bats. Probably, like I said, more so in tournaments. I think they each individually have some decent upside, though, as well.
All right, so I just want to point out one thing with Machado. He's 2 for his last 24. Like, if there's ever a matchup the target against the Orioles, it's when Machado's slumping at the top of the order.
Yeah, that's 2 for 24 is not very good.
Yeah, he's struggling right now. Chicago Cubs at San Francisco taking on the Giants. Jake Arrieta, Jake Peavy. Is it Nola or is it Arrieta for you here?
I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about Arrieta. I've played him like twice this season, and both times it's hasn't worked out all that well. It's been like his only 2 bad performances. So I guess another situation where there's some hoop bias involved, but I don't know. It seems like a tough spot. Obviously, this is a good pitching environment. There's no doubt about it. AT&T Park, very pitcher friendly. But the Giants, just like they're a pesky team, especially at home. I don't think he's going to get a ton of strikeouts here. Coming off an 11 strikeout game, I don't think that happens again. I have no clue where his ownership levels will be, honestly, at this point. I don't know. It's a guy that I'm just not overly excited to pay for. I honestly think his upside is so similar to Aaron Nola's tonight that I don't really want to pay $3,000 more for what I think is going to be about the same thing.
The one thing that I will say here, Arrieta and Kluber are the only 2 pitchers on the slate that have 60-point upside. Nola, I'd probably put him around the 55 to 57 range, like max upside. And Arrieta and Kluber, they have 60 to 75 point upside. So I will say that. But is the Giants really the team that you want to target at Giants? 15% strikeout rate against righties this season is the Giants. Like, this might not be the time you want to target Arrieta at his top price tag. But with that being said, he is obviously the most talented pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, there's no argument really against that. I think, if I was going to put money on who I thought would have the most fantasy points at the pitcher position tonight, my money's going on Arrieta. There's no doubt about that. But it's a price thing. He's going to be the most expensive option across the industry at the pitcher position. And I honestly feel comfortable just saving a little bit of cash there, to be quite frank.
Well, I do. I'm a big Nola supporter, so that I have no issue with that at all. Any Giants bats that you want to take here against Arrieta?
No, none. Zero.
That was really easy. We're on the same page there, Hoop. Even in tournaments, there's just not a reason, in San Francisco to take bats against Arrieta. There is a reason to take bats against Jake Peavy. He continues to decline. He's just not good. I just have a feeling like we're not going to see him much longer this season. You have to make changes, and Peavy's not a guy that you want on your rotation.
Yeah, Giants are too good of a team to continue to put up with Peavy's incompetence. Love the Cubs stack in tournaments. It's a very poor hitting environment. I think that will drive the ownership levels down on these guys. They're all priced up too, so it's kind of hard to fit them in if you're going to pay up at other positions or pay up at pitcher. Just love stacking these guys up in tournaments.
Yeah, Peavy tends to give up home runs. He gives up a really high hard contact rate. I'm with you. Their price tag and being a late slate game, they're going to be really low on here. I like that a lot.
Yep.
The Dodgers taking on the Padres at Petco, Kristen Frederick against Scott Kazmir. And Kazmir was that other guy that I kind of want to talk about as a tournament option. He's not been great this season, but man, I feel like every time we open up, a site like FanDuel or Fantasy Draft or DraftKings, the first thing we look for is who's playing the Padres.
Yeah, honestly, it's gotten to that point, and Casper very interesting. I think he's playable. I think he's playable as an SP2 as well. I mean, going against the Padres. I mean, if you're a pitcher with any sort of upside, and Casimir showed us upside in his last start. He went 8 2/3, 7 strikeouts against the Cardinals. That's enough upside for me to say, hey, guess what? Now this guy's pitching against the Padres, the worst offense or one of the worst offenses in baseball. I'm willing to consider him. Definitely in tournaments and definitely as an SP2. I mean, the argument against it, I just don't really think is there.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you wanted to say there. SP2, I feel like he's cash game playable against the Padres. And the biggest thing that we were worried about with Casimir coming into the season was his velocity was like way, way, way down coming out of spring training. And his last 2 starts, the velocity has really increased. So that's something you really want to note and pay attention to. And if you don't look into those advanced stats, that's why you listen to the podcast, so we can do it for you. Looking at the Padres, against lefties, their WOBA definitely goes up as a team, but they're still striking out 26% of the time. This is a great matchup for Casimir. Now, Frederick, on the other hand, is this a guy you're even interested in?
No, not really. I mean, the pitching environment is plus, but such limited upside. A guy that I don't think we really want to target. I mean, he pitched well last time out, went 6 innings, 4 strikeouts. Looks like he may have also picked up the win, but I don't know. I mean, 4 hits, 6 walks, control issues there. He's only 5K, but honestly, I don't think you need to go that low on FanDuel. Not a guy I'm going to consider.
He's a guy that he pitched in Coors, the last 2 seasons. So his numbers, definitely skewed a little bit.
Yeah.
It would be probably the best way to say it because his home numbers are just insane. And a lot of that has to do with pitching at Coors. But even on the road, he still struggled with right-handed bats. So happy Kiki Hernandez Day. Welcome Kiki Hernandez to your cash lineups, especially at his price tag at minimum salary on FanDuel. Like, instant play for me. He should bat in the leadoff spot. I just don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get solid exposure to this lineup at a very cheap price tag, basically around the industry. All of these guys are super inexpensive. Adrian Gonzalez continues to be out of the lineup. Good lineup spots for guys like Justin Turner, Howie Kendrick, like you said, Kiki Hernandez should be up there towards the top as well. So I think this lineup, when it's all said and done, is going to be a lineup that people go to for value. You can get the core parts of this lineup for really, really cheap, which makes them really good cash game fillers. I don't know if I really like them in tournaments because of the difficult hitting environment here in Petco. So I think my favorite part about the Dodgers lineup, like I said, would be lineup fillers for some cheap guys.
Any Padres bats that you want to take here against Casimir? Even though he has pitched decent this year, he still struggled with a little bit of home run issues.
I think Matt Kemp somewhat interesting. I think Will Myers is somewhat interesting. I mean, but these are deep tournament plays. They'll be really low owned, definitely under 10%. But I think there is some upside.
That's going to wrap it up here for a 15-game slate. I just want to mention Trevor Story hit another home run. 12 home runs in the season for him. So everybody that said like this guy was just a one-hit wonder, this kid's legit. I love Trevor Story. And, one other rant that I have, we do the podcast and, we spit out the best information we can. Sometimes we're going to be wrong. If we were right all the time, we'd be millionaires and you probably wouldn't hear us on the podcast. But I was wrong about Jonathan Gray. So all the tweets that I've gotten, love you guys, but tweeting me when saying like, good call on Gray. Yeah, I played him a lot, cost me a lot of money. I don't need you guys' tweets. Anyway, rant over. Let's play some home run derby. I'll let you go first here since I need to have a sip of my water here.
Going contrarian today. That's my main focus.
Yes. All right. I already like this.
I want to beat you at your own game. All right. So I'm going contrarian, and I have my guys lined up, and I don't think there's any chance that you take them. So I'm starting out with Stephen Piscotty.
Piscotty, I like it. I'm gonna go. All right, I'm gonna play contrarian right back at you, because I can't let somebody come on the podcast and outdo me at my own game here. Trace Thompson's my first one here.
That's more contrarian than your Stevie's contrarian is obviously way more contrarian than Hoop's contrarian. Michael Conforto.
Oh, I love that one.
Yep.
That's not really that super, contrarian there.
Hey, listen, you're talking to Hoop 2410. That's about as contrarian as it gets.
I'm gonna go David Ortiz against Kluber.
Oh, I did have him on my list.
Yes. See, you kind of had to expect that, right?
Yeah. All right, my last one is Seth Smith.
I love that as well. I had some Seattle guys, and then you said you wanted to go contrarian. Like I said, I can't let people beat me at my own game.
Yeah.
I mentioned how much I love, how well Quintana has pitched this season, but I'm going to go Lorenzo Cain and take the last part of this 3-man contrarian team.
I like it. I like Cain. I like him a lot in tournaments.
If you had to pick one pitcher at the end of the day that's not named Jake Arrieta, who's going to pick up a win here?
I don't feel right saying Nola, so I'm not going to say Nola. I'm going to say Jose Quintana at home facing the Royals. I think he picks up the win here.
Yeah, one guy that's going to beat him is Cain. The one guy that I'm worried about in the lineup is Cain. That's not enough not to look at him. I'm going to go Scott Kazmir. Like you said, I feel like just saying Nola is just wrong. So I'm going to go Scott Kazmir, 8K. And I think he's going to pick up a win here. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Hoop?
Interesting slate. I hope everyone does well, and I hope you guys found this information to be of value.
Last thing I want to mention before we get out of here, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out the promo that we're running with Ty Dillon, it's just a really awesome promo. It's something that we really haven't done before that we want to kind of do with more people. So if you like it, make sure you guys go over to the forums. We're letting everybody submit questions to Ask Ty. We're going to pick 10 of these questions, and all the 10 questions that we pick, we're going to give you guys RotoGrinders t-shirts, and then Ty's going to answer them in an interview with us at Charlotte. Also, we're going to throw all 10 names into a hat that Ty has signed, randomly draw a name, and you're going to win a signed Ty Dillon hat. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you guys go over to the forums. It's pinned at the top. It's called Ty Dillon Wants to Answer 10 Questions for the RotoGrinders exclusively. Make sure you guys go post a question or two, like fun questions or everything that you want to do. So make sure you guys go over there, check that out. Hoop, I'm expecting you to ask him a question, my friend.
I'll be on there. Don't worry. I'll hook it up with a nice, friendly, entertaining question.
Yeah, like maybe a Bachelor question. There you go.
Is he a Bachelor fan?
I don't know. I have to. Why don't I find that out and I'll let you know.
Please let me know because I can definitely fire away on that topic.
I'll shoot him a text here and I'll let you know. But that's gonna wrap it up here for us on this Friday slate. We'll be back on Monday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Again, if you haven't checked out our sponsor over on FantasyDraft.com, go check them out. Use promo code Grinders. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And that's going to wrap it up here, and we'll see you guys next week.